Hey, what's up? What's up, YouTube boxing family? It is K-Rod here. I'm back at it with another video for y'all today. And yeah, we got some boxing commentary that I wanted to give you guys for the channel. But before I do that, be sure to subscribe to Boxing Fight Simulations. He's a pretty good YouTuber that does Fight Night Champion simulations to this day. He's a really good YouTube content creator. He's very fun with his fight boxing simulations that he likes to do on Fight Night Champion. I truly love this game. This game is really fun. The graphics are still OP to this day, even though that this came out on the PS3 and Xbox 360. But yeah, we got pretty much Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez, the soon-to-be fight coming January 31st. So yeah, this is going to be a crazy good fight. Shakur Stevenson has a good opportunity to become a four-division world champion, if that is to be possible at 140. But that's not what we're going to be talking about for today. I could probably talk about that after this, this video. But yeah, I'll probably just go ahead and probably do what I wanted to do initially, but be sure to like, rate, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, man, I appreciate every single one of you guys coming through. And y'all know who y'all are. And yeah, let's get right into it. So for today's video, we're gonna be talking about Shakur Stevenson with his Puerto Rican identity heritage. And I don't really always like to talk about this because some people like to get a little bit too upset over little things that I might say. But granted, for those of you who may not know me, I have Puerto Rican lineage, and this is just going to be my own perspective of how I see Shakur Stevenson. I don't have any issues up against, Shakur as a person. I'm sure if he were to be honest with, with me and actually had a conversation with me, any, any like feud that I would have with Shakur Stevenson would not be as bad compared to anybody else in the world that is probably 10 times worse as a human that can't communicate effectively, in a proper educated manner. So yeah, let's get right into it. I'm just gonna be as truthful and honest as I perceive it, but this is just my own perspective of how I see things. So yeah, for those of you that may ask, like, what is the issue that I may have with Shakur Stevenson with the Puerto Rican identity? For those of you that may not know, Shakur Stevenson, he does have Puerto Rican lineage, but in the sport of boxing, obviously, with a lot of people being so fixated on race to be, very narcissistic and very evil. I would say mostly within the Western world, especially within the US, maybe Canada, and maybe parts of Western Europe. I'm not really too entirely sure. I think every part of the world is different in terms of how boxing matches go. But in terms of the US, I'm going to say America is a very idiotic country to be very, how should I say, very deceptive and very racist to be narcissistic towards fighters that of which of African, well, Afro like American descent, and then maybe a few Hispanics here and there, but it's mostly the target towards Afro American fighters. Afro American fighters have held a lot of weight for boxing in the U.S., and most of the champions in the. Oh, excuse me. Hold on. All right, I'm back. So yeah, back to what I was having to say. Like obviously within the United States, there's been a lot of discrimination, mostly towards Afro American fighters, and then here and there you may see some Hispanics being disrespected, but for the mass majority of of American fighters, regardless of race, Afro American fighters have won most of the championships historically for American boxing lineage. So a lot of black American fighters have won most of the championships in the United States, and the U.S. being very narcissistically racist does not really give a lot of credit. That being let the boxing fan base per se, not giving a lot of credit to Afro American fighters that have done way more accomplishments in the sport of boxing compared to like what any other race, yeah, like basically compared to any other ethnicity in the US that would ever like accomplish that. That the history is definitely there with, guys like Devin Haney, Terrence Crawford, Shakur Stevenson included. um I mean, who else? I mean, whole bunch of great fighters. I mean, Joe Louis, Floyd Patterson, Henry Armstrong, Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns. If you want to go way back, Jack Johnson, Joe Gans, Archie Moore, just super old school fighters, and a lot of Afro American talent has literally dominated and destructively destroyed a lot of competition back to back. So yeah, as far as Shakur Stevenson goes, here's my issue with the Puerto Rican lineage, problem. Shakur Stevenson, obviously born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. He claimed to say in the past that his father, who is from Puerto Rico, there is a claim to say that, well, there is a rumor out there stating that his father's from Toa, Baja, yeah, oh man, like I'm so sorry. Toa Baja Alta in Puerto Rico, of where he was originally from. And, Shakur has stated that he's never met his father until the age of, I want to say 19 years old. And, this is like before like his dad was like basically shot and killed because his father wasn't really a good influence per se, because his father, got into some like gangster, street life type of stuff, which I don't really know too much about. But for the most part, he's been mostly raised by his mother, and he has all of his, like, I want to say little brothers and sisters. Like, I forgot how many siblings that he has, but just to kind of sum it up, Shakur Stevenson has been raised around his black Afro American side of his family. Now, the issue, however, is with the Puerto Rican side. We don't really know too many ancestors from Shakur's side from Shakur's side, of like of the family that have actually came forward to say that they actually, are connected with Shakur, and they actually really want to get to know who he is and actually build a bond with him. And, granted, like, Shakur doesn't really need to show that. I mean, that's really his family business. And, however he goes down with trying to know his other extended family, that's on him. But in regards to boxing, however, Shakur Stevenson has been mostly connected with American fan base for boxing, as far as him starting out his career as a amateur representing the United States to be viewed as a up and coming American talent. And granted, before anybody tries to say about, Puerto Rico being part of the U.S. and it's a American territory, yada yada yada, Puerto Rico on a competitive level is separated from the U.S. on a national international scale, where Puerto Rico has its own, how should I say, amateur program that is different from the American amateur program. And then on top of that, they also have their own amateur Olympic committee, where they can have their own, national team to compete at a global level. So, before anybody even tries to say it, well, it's still part of what the U.S. and Puerto Ricans are still Americans. That's besides the point. Puerto Ricans are separated in terms of competition with Americans. So, at the end of the day, the U.S. is still separated from Puerto Rico in terms of competition, but even on the political side, Puerto Rico is still at that divide with the U.S. because, everything historically with, how the U.S. basically, took the land by force after the Spanish American War and all that other, crazy nonsense of them trying to impose, political, control over the island and trying to, import corporatism and make everything worse over there. But I'm not gonna get into that. Like, obviously, it's a nation under invasion that is stolen, and that is historically true under the UN, yeah, under the U.S. Control, and then obviously Spain with how they invaded the Taino people and then tried to enslave them and try to hurt and kill them in very evil ways. But then again, people did fight back, and they try to reclaim certain control for that particular means, like of that time frame. But yeah, like I'll talk about that like a different day. um yeah, because I have like a video that I wanted to talk about, explaining about Puerto Rico's situation, which I'll probably save that for another video. I'll probably do that maybe after this particular video. But yeah, yeah, like I definitely do have that, on my mind. But yeah, with with Shakur Stevenson's case, the problem with Shakur is that throughout his entirety of his career, he's always represented, America within his boxing journey. And leading up until the point where, I forgot what fight it was. I think it was the Jeremiah Nakathila fight, or I forgot like the fight that he had. Honestly, it's been literally so long since I've actually like seen that fight where he was trying to express his Puerto Rican lineage. But I want to say it was either the Nakathila fight or the I don't know, like what. I don't think it was the Edwin De Los Santos fight. Um, I want to say either Artem Harnarutian or Suchirina Yoshino. It's either one of those fights. It's either after the Nakathila fight or the Artem Harnarutian fight. So I'm not too entirely sure, but either way, just to kind of like make it simplistic, he was showing his solidarity to the Puerto Rican people. But the issue, however, was that yes, it's cool that Shakur wants to do it now, while he kept it secret for quite a long time because no one never really cared and no one never really knew, like about that. And I mean, usually with more like with most Shakur Stevenson fans, they were probably just thinking Shakur was just always just like a black kid, from the U.S., based out of Newark, New Jersey. So, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure that's what the average fan was probably thinking. Like, yeah, yeah, man, Shakur's just a black kid, man. He ain't no Puerto Rican, blah blah blah, and like it's just kind of funny because it's like I be laughing anytime, when Shakur Stevenson fans are like, oh nah, man, he ain't Puerto Rican, he ain't Hispanic, blah blah blah. And then it's like like the minute he says it, they're like, huh? Well, like I never heard of that, blah blah blah. So I mean, like, it's kind of funny because it's like, granted, I don't mind any person, showing support for their bloodline. And obviously, specifically when it comes to Puerto Rico, it's always fine to show your solidarity support to the heritage. But in this case with Shakur, the issue that stands is that he was never doing this beforehand at the beginning of his career. Now, let's make a comparison fighter that actually does do that, but they don't have to harp on it because they were because they were already raised with that mindset, but therefore it's already been put into their way of life to show support and compassion of their heritage. So the other fighter that I will bring up is a up and coming fighter who's black and Puerto Rican, based out of New Jersey. His name is Keith Colon. Shout out to him. And I'm not too entirely sure if Keith had probably been raised mostly like around like the Puerto Rican side. Like I'm probably gonna say like he's very deeply rooted with being around the Puerto Rican family of his lineage. But as you see Keith Cologne, like he's very prideful for it because his family brought him up to understand who he is and know that yes, his Puerto Rican side is very strong and very supportive. And then, whoever let the black side is out of like his family or the Afro like American side, they do the same thing. Vice versa. And I mean that's like to me like that's totally fine. Like Keith Cologne actually brought himself into that cultural mindset and he's very prideful to show his solidarity support for Puerto Rico. And compared to Shakur Stevenson, he should have done that at the very beginning of his career. Now, the question remains is that when it came to the Olympics, why wasn't Shakur ever thinking about representing Puerto Rico for the Olympics or to even compete at the amateur level, just to like compete at a global level for Puerto Rico, but it would make you basically stand out a lot better where, instead of competing for the US, you can compete for Puerto Rico, you can get more victories for Puerto Rico. And then on top of that, it makes your global, popularity a lot bigger because it's like you're doing something that no other, American athletes really do. Because granted, I get it, like certain people will say, well, if you're American and you have basically better opportunities to grow with a American team, at a global, level, especially if you're trying to compete in the Olympics or you're trying to stand out better, as a professional, like while you're, let's just say I don't know, going through college or anything like that before you're trying to like make it to like the pro leagues. 9 times out of 10, most people represent, the US because they want to get that financial backing where let's just say if they get hit up by sponsors and then those sponsors help them out, that helps them go the extra mile because they're being promoted at the American market stage. But granted, when you go through any other U.S. territory that you want to, represent for, let's just say if you're Guamese, American, and you clearly have a lot of pride for your culture in Guam, but you want to represent the U.S. instead of Guam because there's just more economic opportunity for representing the U.S. when you compete in the Olympics, or let's just say if you're competing as a professional player, whether that's basketball, baseball, hockey, like you would have more pride in competing in the US for the United States because that's giving you more money to compete at a global level. Now, comparable to the other territories that are part of the U.S., like the American Samoa, Puerto Rico, Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands. I mean, obviously, those islands or those territories, they could still be competed in their own Olympic pedigree team, but it's like to me personally, if you have pride in your bloodline and you want to represent it or basically show any pure support for them, in my mind, it would be best to represent them to compete under their banner instead of competing for the US because who knows, you could be that next big thing that goes out of, yeah, where you go out of your way, competing for a different, territorial nation that's part of the US, and therefore, if you win a Olympic gold medal or you compete at some global competition for them, depending on whatever sport that you do, that speaks a lot more volume because you actually took a risk in being great. So compared to boxing, I think Shakur Stevenson should have done that. At the Olympics, he should have went for competing for Puerto Rico instead of competing for the United States. Because yes, granted, I don't care what anybody says, like Puerto Rico's still part of the US, so it's like, what are you talking about? What difference does it make? It makes a huge difference because Puerto Rico has a rich boxing history that can compete at a global level with the US, but way better in the sense of if you represent Puerto Rico more, where you have American level talent that hold Puerto Rican lineage to the island, that benefits Puerto Rico, and the United States does not have all that talent that everybody says that we always have at the pro level, which, don't get it twisted. Like, America is a powerhouse. America is literally like the three-headed Cerberus warlord dog in terms of we are that good of a country where we could literally destroy most countries with any sport that the US gets into. It just doesn't really show as much because it's like, depending on the sport and depending on how much money how much money is being put into it, that's the only downside of how those sports play out. But for the most part, America does insanely well with most sports. Now, in terms of Puerto Rico is kind of like in that boat of being a powerhouse, island that can produce a lot of talent for baseball, basketball, to a certain degree, because obviously not every Puerto Rican is tall. A lot of them are short. But if they were taller, like at least above 6'8", yeah, granted, Puerto Ricans can definitely compete at that global level. Definitely not a lot of Anthony Davis, people over there. But if that were to happen one day, that would be pretty dope. But I'm not gonna hold my breath to it. I think genetically by the ancestry, that's probably not gonna work. But hey, if it happens, I will definitely be right there supporting it. But yeah, I mean, Puerto Rico is very good, at a global stage with almost every single sport. I mean, you got, well, not every sport. Baseball, boxing, basketball, um and what else? Soccer. Soccer can very well take over pretty well. I think it's just due to the lack of funding. And I think maybe golf. I was hearing golf could possibly be good, but I don't think golf is probably that big. I know with tennis is very good for the women. Obviously, players like Monica Puig. She obviously won gold for Puerto Rico. Shout out to her. She's a very great athlete. Um, but then obviously Jasmine Camacho Quinn with track and field. I mean, that could definitely make some traction, in future years. But yeah, for the most part, Puerto Rico's pretty strong with a good portion level of a sport. So it's not like every sport is super duper loaded with talent, with Puerto Rican talent. But for the most part, like basketball, baseball, boxing, soccer, those sports will definitely be on the powerhouse list for Puerto Rican talent. Now, with Shakur Stevenson not having to do that to represent Puerto Rico for boxing, it doesn't really showcase really much, I guess, like true support for the island. And granted, some people like to, utilize like this whole weird narrative to say that, well, certain Puerto Ricans say that if you're not from the island and therefore, obviously if you're born anywhere else in the world and you are Puerto Rican, um, you're not really a real, Puerto Rican because you're not from the island, and you don't associate yourself to the island, a lot because you're more focused on your own environment of where you're, originally from. And to me personally, I definitely like agree with that sentiment to a certain degree, because it's like if you're not really used to knowing what's common in a different part of the world that you haven't been to, and yet, granted, you have bloodline for it, but you're just a descendant. You're not like a true native, like a native, like a native, how should I say it, like an inhabitant living there and actually knowing what it's like to be there. So, in that same, particular variable, when you compare that with Shakur, he grew up in Newark, New Jersey, and I'm not too entirely sure if he's ever been to Puerto Rico. I don't like. I'm probably gonna say he's never been there, but even if he did, maybe he had taken like a few trips out there, but he's never like actually been there to like look at what happens, in the island, and he doesn't interact with anybody in the island. Like if he hasn't done that yet, where he's actually spent some time to go over there and try to like look into the community, try to interact with people, like that's probably not something that he ever does on his particular radar because he's too focused on boxing. But then on top of that, it's like that's probably where a lot of Puerto Ricans say, you know, if you're not from the island and you don't associate, like basically, if you don't associate yourself with getting involved in interacting with the people in the island, then you don't have like a place to actually really say that you're Puerto Rican, because if anything, you're just using it as a status to just call yourself that because you just want to put yourself in that category, but therefore you're not doing anything to be a part of that, because even if you do go over there and you try to act like as if, oh yo man, look, look right here, like I'm so cool going to Puerto Rico, all my baricuas, blah blah blah, and yeah, you're not really engaged with helping the people there and actually like interacting with the people there, then that kind of makes you look like a sellout. Like to a certain degree, like it kind of makes you look like an outsider. So I'm not even trying to like throw that jacket on to a guy like Shakur, but it's just pretty much like this in my particular belief. If you don't have any affiliation with any part of the world that you go to, that you don't know where you are and you haven't been in this part of the world at all. But in this particular degree with Puerto Rico, even if you have bloodline and you've never been to this land, but you don't ever care to like look into the land actually to see how people live and actually try to get involved to like see what you can do to contribute, then you don't hold any weight, on the island. So to that particular degree, I think that's the issue with Shakur. He has this particular mindset where he believes that, if I could just call myself Puerto Rican and try to get, the boxing fans to like me, then I'll try to con them in a way where they can be frauded or to be defrauded, and therefore I'm going to abuse that fan base so they could just like me for who I am. Versus like if he actually really cared about the fan base, you would probably have your fights, over in Puerto Rico, because honestly think about it, like why hasn't Shakur Stevenson ever thought about wanting to fight in Puerto Rico where he could headline as the let's just say like the co-main event or the main event next to Amanda Serrano. And then, I don't like to put Jake Paul into that conversation because, a lot of meat eaters will definitely walk in to say, "Oh, well, Jake Paul, he's doing good for Puerto Rico." No, 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 no. If you are ethnically connected to the island, that's how it should be. Like, if you really want to like support yourself for the people, do something to give something back to them. Like that's what I did, where I donated my money to help out Hurricane Maria victims and other hurricane, damaging survivors from previous hurricanes. So I've donated my money directly through New York, where I've supported organizations that would send money over to them. But I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I'll probably do more, of that in the future, where I just actually just go to like Puerto Rican led donation pages where I could just help more people out. But yeah, like I mean, with me personally, like I've done that. Like I've done that where I've helped out. Like I try to help out with like my own money that I have. Like now, like in terms of what I have to like afford to donate my money to Puerto Rican families that have suffered within the hurricanes. Over the years. So like I have done that. I think the problem with Shakur is that if he really cares about like if he really cares about his own heritage, he should be more heavily engaged to get involved with them, so therefore he can build a good fan base. Like build a good fan base reputation, so he's not having to utilize this type of deceptive means to kind of like use them to basically manipulate them, because if he continues to do that and goes down that particular rabbit hole, I think that's going to brutally affect him as a fighter, where a lot of people are going to start hating towards Shakur Stevenson, with him being very narcissistically deceptive against the Puerto Rican fan base. So I think overall, if Shakur Stevenson, gets his act, together, where he could actually, really do something caring for the population, then he'll be good to go. I'm not saying like Shakur Stevenson wouldn't do that or can't do it. I mean, knowing that he is successful where he's at in boxing, and he has money, and he can go out there to contribute to the island, or if he wants to like bring his boxing career to Puerto Rico, where he could try to headline, some big fights down there. Like I'm pretty sure that he could work with guys like Miguel Cotto to be like, hey, we could bring you down here to fight some big name. Let's just say Javante Tank Davis down in Puerto Rico, or let's just say, like, I don't know, let's just say after he beats Tiafimo, he can make a title defense or a title unification down in Puerto Rico. Like imagine that. Like granted, I'm not too sure what's going on with his management. Like I know Jay Prince is still with him, which I don't understand why he's still tied. Oh man, I'm so sorry. Yeah, like I don't understand why he's still tied to him. I think he should definitely explore other options, but that's besides the point. But still, like I want to say he's still doing like the whole deal with Turkey Al Sheikh to do business with him. So I'm not too sure. Like I think if anything, it would be good to try to get some headline fights down in Puerto Rico, and just try to do something to like give back to the people. Like it doesn't have to be much of anything. Let's just say if you want to like open up some fundraisers to help out the people of the island, or you want to like donate your money to like people that are suffering with, I don't know, some certain sicknesses. Like I don't know, like there's plenty of things that he can do for the island that many other celebrities have gone down there that are Puerto Rican descent, Americans, and they've made like a huge impact onto the island. Like you have many people such as, let's just say Carmelo Anthony. He's created his own basketball court, or he created a basketball court down in La Perla over in Puerto Rico, and that's helped a lot of people where they're able to play basketball, in the streets, and people thank him for that. Like people actually look up to him for that. So I think, honestly, to me, if he does that, that will make him a way better influence. Where let's just say Shakur Stevenson opens up like a gym over in Puerto Rico, or if he does something like, I don't know, create some clothing drives to help out families in need, like children, or helping out people to give food to them. Like I don't know, like Shakur, he can very well do that, and I know that he can probably do that because I'm pretty sure he does have a good heart, but his actions just does not show that. If anything, when it came to, let's just say Thanksgiving to a particular degree, I remember in the past that Shakur went out to, well, I forgot where he went out to within Newark, within New Jersey, but he basically gave, Thanksgiving turkey dinners to people within his neighborhood community, and that was a really great thing that he did because everybody knows who he is, but on top of that, he's actually helping out his people down in Newark, over in New Jersey. Now, for Puerto Rico, it's like, he could very well do that. He can go down to Puerto Rico and he can give people food and give people, I don't know, like just help people out. Like, I don't have to like it doesn't have to be much, but it's like if you want to build your reputation to be higher, there's plenty of avenues that Shakur can do if he wants to go to that particular level. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I got no beef with with Shakur. It's just that the problem that I had from the very beginning when he was calling himself, or he was trying to align himself for being Puerto Rican, was that he never had this energy when he was younger. So therefore, why did he do it years later after he got older? In some of his fights where he was trying to particularly express that, and he was never showing any solidarity support for Puerto Rico. So my only issue to Shakur is that if he had cared about Puerto Rico, he would have done something about it, where he would have done a lot of great things by now to help them out. And let me just put it off of like one note here. If he does end up doing something good to help out the people, that will make his name a way better person outside of his boxing career because he's done a lot to give back and also make those sacrifices to be a good influence to those young children that look at him. And guess what? Puerto Rico can very well support him a lot more, kind of similar to with how they did it with Tito Trinidad, Miguel Cotto, even some of the up and coming fighters that are not from the U.S. but they are Puerto Ricans. At the end of the day, you got Oscar Colazo. Um, I forgot. Like, I mean, obviously Keith Cologne can very well get a massive fan base over there if he were to fight over there or to even just like go over there and just help people out. Like, I mean, there's so much that can be done to help the people of the island, but it would make your name a lot bigger and a lot better because all the other cultures that are right by Puerto Rico, that being the Hispanic countries for Cuba and the DR or the Dominican Republic, that brings a much better unity that you can bring for the Caribbean alone. So I think like Shakur should very well do that because that's something that I do myself, in terms of just trying to give back and try to help out the people. I don't always have all the money in the world to donate to a lot of charity organizations to that particular degree. But if I do have money, then I will help out. I will try to do something for the people. That's why, with me, like for anybody that may not know me like that, I will show my solidarity and show my support for a lot of Puerto Ricans. Especially people that I've been mad cool, like with over the years. For there some Puerto Rican fighters that I'm really good friends with to this day. I mean, like I'm friends with Nestor Bravo. Who else? Omar Rosario. I don't talk to him as much, but me and him are definitely good people. I'm not too sure if Miguel Cruz is from Puerto Rico. I want to say he's probably from Florida, but I'll probably put him within that category. But yeah, shout out to Miguel Cruz. I mean, yeah, man. Like, I mean, to me personally, I've done my contributions to develop my connection with my bloodline, but I don't harp about it, and I don't grift over the culture, because I think that's the biggest denominator with Shakur Stevenson. If he's just using the culture to grift and to be very narcissistic to the fan base, then that's a problem. Because compared to other fighters that have real pride for Puerto Rican heritage, that are trying to do their best to be supportive for them, like Keith Colon, or I don't know, any fighter, like, I mean, there's just like way too many fighters that I can probably think of, but like my brain is not computing correctly, so like I can't really think of everybody. I mean, other fighters like Giovanni Estella, um man, who else? I mean, as far as like Puerto Rican, like American born fighters. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, like I pretty much lose count pretty quickly, but there's plenty of good talent out there. Yeah, like especially in the states that has pure support for Puerto Rican heritage. I mean, it's definitely there, because compared to those that are from the island, like Xander Zayas, Brian Bolaco, all those guys are like definitely like, purely supportive with their fan base, and everybody shows up. And I mean, even though Edgar Berlanga, like he's not from the island, but he's contributed so much to the island to go back and actually like be a good influence to a lot of people. Like that's something that Shakur Stevenson should do more often. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, but that's pretty much the end of this video. I find it surprising that this simulation was won by Teofimo Lopez. Hey, maybe Teofimo, he might beat Shakur Stevenson, but now I'm definitely gonna probably talk about that video after I get this video done. I want to talk about Teofimo Lopez versus Shakur Stevenson matchup. My thoughts on that. But yeah, man, I think that's pretty much it. I didn't want to come out being disrespectful towards Shakur Stevenson. I really wanted to give my honest like opinion towards Shakur, but I will make a YouTube Shorts video for it. Just to kind of explain my issue with it. But yeah, I would hope that for people that understand, they know where I'm coming from, because it's like if you care about your heritage, you're gonna stand up for it, no matter what. If you're gonna represent it, that's something that you should be prideful to do, and nothing should stop you if you have the ability to do so. And I think with a guy like Shakur Stevenson, he can do better, because he had that opportunity to do that at the beginning of his boxing career, and when he was a amateur too. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, man. I mean, I don't really have much to really say, but I would wish Shakur Stevenson nothing but the best. But I really hope that Shakur Stevenson, if you are listening, if you really care about your heritage, you should do those things that I have mentioned, where try to get involved with the island, and just give back with certain contributions that you have towards it. And then if anything, try to get boxing fights, down there too. Like that, like a lot of people will definitely show up for you. And if you promote well with a good name that people want to see you in there with, along with, let's just say, Amanda Serrano, or any Puerto Rican fighter, like hell, like get Xander Zayas to actually fight down there too. Like that would be huge. Like you and Xander headlining on the same night, like that would be awesome. But I'm pretty sure that will never happen. But I guess we will see what happens with Shakur Stevenson's legacy, and hopefully he can make those particular fights, heading into the future down in Puerto Rico. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I will see you guys later. Long live Puerto Rico, aka Borican, Dakro Buk, Dakat Barikwa Apuche. That means I love you, my Puerto Rican, or well, not Puerto Rican. Like I love you, my Boricua family in the Taino language. So hope you guys enjoy that. I'm definitely gonna make another video like this heading into the future. But I'm gonna talk about Teofimo Lopez versus Shakur Stevenson matchup thoughts after closing out this video right now. All right, so I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and peace out. Bye.